Hi, I'm Art Childs, and if you're new to this channel, I'm an internal medicine critical care physician with a deep passion for photography. You might wonder what connection these two passions and professions might share. Well, over the years, I've come to realize the healing power of photography, not only in how it's personally impacted me, but also as a tool for fostering communication and bringing joy and wonder and relief to my patients. Scientific evidence supports the idea that photography can positively influence mental health and overall well-being. It has the potential to enhance self-esteem, confidence, memory, and decision-making skills. Additionally, photography can evoke emotions and shape how individuals perceive and interpret the world around them. When we engage with an image, it's not just our visual cortex that's activated. The brain region responsible for emotional processing is also stimulated. Successful photographers comprehend that the human brain is inclined towards contrast, symmetry, and visual narratives that challenge our expectations.
This juxtaposition serves to captivate viewers and elicit emotional reactions, a principle that talented artist James Popsis emphasizes in his work. He often says when picking out a composition, I have questions, highlighting the curiosity that drives his creative process.
By leveraging these principles in our compositions and photo editing, we can significantly impact not only the audience, but also ourselves as photographers. The simple act of pressing the shutter button releases neurochemicals in the brain, imprinting that moment and the associated emotions into the photographer's memory for a lifetime. Through this channel, I will delve into the fusion of the art and science of photography, sharing insights from my personal journeys and experiences in photography and in my travels. In this final chapter of my journey to Africa in the midst of the COVID pandemic, we leave the magnificent Masai Mara in Kenya with memories of one of the most beautiful places in the world, with wildlife encounters that will affect the way I view the natural world for years to come. If you haven't had a chance to see part 2, I'll leave a link above. And if you like what you're seeing, please leave a comment, subscribe, so we can help grow this channel together. It's greatly appreciated. We left off last time after an amazing leopard encounter on the way to catch our plane heading for our next African adventure. We made it with some time to spare, and after saying our goodbyes, we headed off to our last stop, the Central African country of Uganda. In order to get there, we had to first fly to Nairobi and transfer to a flight to Entebbe, a city in central Uganda, which is located on Lake Victoria. The city is the location of Entebbe International Airport, Uganda's largest commercial and military airport, which gained worldwide attention in the 1976 Israeli rescue of 100 hostages, whose plane was hijacked by German and Palestinian terrorists. On arrival to Entebbe, this history was not lost on me, as we presented our passports to border authorities and was, without explanation, whisked away to a holding cell, being falsely accused of forging our visas. 3 hours later, and after a few phone calls and a demanded bribe of $150, which probably is what they wanted in the first place, we were off to our hotel for 2 hours of sleep before heading back to the airport. The sun was just beginning to rise as we boarded the small bush plane, leaving the chaos of Entebbe behind us. Our final destination awaited us, the Bwindi Impenetrable Forest, home to some of the last remaining mountain gorillas in the world. As our plane soared over the lush landscapes of Uganda, I couldn't shake off the unease of our ordeal from the night before. The beauty of this country was marred by corruption and greed, but I was determined to not let it ruin our adventure. Located in southwestern Uganda, along the Congo border, on the rim of the Rift Valley, Bwindi is home to 400 mountain gorillas, approximately half of the total population of the world. Another bucket list item, I knew that our African adventure had to include mountain trekking, to see up close, in person, these majestic creatures. The hillsides of Bwindi, covered by an impenetrable mist, includes one of the most ancient and biologically diverse rainforests in the world. As we flew over this incredible landscape, I snapped a few pictures that unfortunately don't do justice to the amazing scene that unfolded below us. Upon landing on another dirt airstrip in the midst of nowhere, we were greeted by our guide Gordon, a man of many talents and esteemed within the community of Bwindi. Not only was he our guide and driver for the trip, but he also held the title of mayor, artisan, and all-around great guide to the people of the region. His shop, in the one-block town right outside the Bwindi Park gates, featured some of the most impressive handmade wood carvings I've ever seen. As we made our way from the landing strip to the Sanctuary Gorilla Forest camp, the 2-hour journey was filled with stunning and rural African scenes. The hillsides were adorned with lush banana trees and endless stretches of tea plantations, where hard-working Ugandans toiled under the scorching sun. Despite their undeniable poverty, the locals never failed to smile and wave at us as we passed by in our SUV. However, there was the sight of the barefooted children, clad in worn-out clothes, that truly captured my heart. Their infectious smiles stretching from ear to ear filled me with warmth and gratitude. Each child we passed seemed to embody the resilience and the joyful spirit of the Ugandan people, leaving an indelible mark on my soul. Travel-wearied and exhausted from 24 hours of traveling, we finally made it to the Sanctuary Gorilla Forest camp, where we were greeted by a host with a cold gin and tonic, made from locally grown banana gin, and it really hit the spot. Located deep in the heart of the rainforest and just steps from the Ugandan Wildlife Authority Center, where the gorilla trekking begins, this lodge blends beautifully into the surrounding forest. Gorilla families even have been known to pay a visit to this camp itself, and while we didn't experience this, we did hear throughout our stay the calls of the silverbacks from within our tent. Well before dawn, the next morning, we were greeted by Gordon, who was to take us to our first trekking site. Since we had signed up for 2 days of trekking, Gordon wanted to show us the other side of the forest, close to the Congolese border. We eventually met up with our guides, who were clad in military fatigues and rifles, and after a safety briefing, we headed out on the long trek up to meet our first gorilla family. Initially walking through rows and rows of tea shrubs that border the rainforest, we made our way into the dense tree line, our guides leading the way with machetes, cutting a path along the way. Carrying 2 cameras with a 24-70 and 7200mm on each of my shoulders, along with hiking sticks crafted by Gordon with a gorilla engraving on the top, I made a mental note that I would try to find a better carrying system for future endeavors. The slapping of my cameras against the dense brush was, let us say at the very least, annoying, and I was thankful I had Nikon bodies which held up like tanks. An hour and a half into our trek, our guides stopped and gathered us together. We were instructed to put our masks on to protect the gorillas from human respiratory infections, including COVID. And we were told we'd have 1 hour with this family. When I asked where they were, one of the guides pulled aside a large bush. And there, no further than maybe 10 feet under the canopy of the forest, was a group of 5 gorillas playfully interacting with one another, seemingly unaware or without fear of the new intruders to their world. The next hour was truly magic. Leaning low against a tree in the dense brush of the forest, I couldn't contain my excitement and awe for what I was experiencing. But I'll stop talking and just let the pictures and video showcase what I mean. After this incredible experience, we made our way back to our lodge, and after a fantastic lunch and swapping trekking stories with other guests, we signed up for a tour of the local Batwa tribe. The Batwa people, once known as Pygmies, are one of the oldest surviving indigenous tribes in Africa. Their traditional lands, forests high in the mountains, straddle several East African countries. Over time, they have come to be known as conservation refugees, a term reflecting the challenges posed by an increasing population rate and the impacts of climate change that are forcing governments to address their needs. The forest here is also the last remaining habitat of the mountain gorilla, habitat that's been steadily lost to human encroachment in recent decades. The Batwa have lived alongside these gorillas since the beginning of time. In 1991, the government of Uganda changed the classification of these lands where the Batwa had resided for generations to a national park system. This decision created a conflict between the needs of a marginalized community and the protection of a species that had gained worldwide recognition for environmental conservation efforts. Currently, around 6,000 Batwa people in Uganda are living on the edges of the forest, being forced further up the mountains or residing in urban slums nearby. They are considered some of the most impoverished individuals in one of the world's poorest nations, working in local agriculture or engaging in tourism activities for any income they may get. Those who do participate in tourism receive a share of the park entry fees, which means no visitors equals no earnings, a situation exacerbated during the pandemic. In these challenging circumstances, their connection to the forest and traditional healing methods have been severed, leading to a decline in their population. Tragically, statistics show that 4 out of every 10 Batwa children do not survive past the age of 5, and the average life expectancy for the Batwa is just 28 years. We were introduced to the king of the tribe and led on a hike through the forest where the king and some tribal members reenacted the Batwa's traditional way of life, including fire making, hunting, gathering medicinal plants, and providing a glimpse into a lifestyle they remember from their childhood. The dichotomy and incongruence between the noble cause of saving the mountain gorillas, clearly an endangered species, and the price that these Batwa people have paid by being forced out of their native lands and way of life was not lost on us. The Batwa have coexisted with these gorillas for centuries, but now they represent some of the last individuals with first-hand memories of this shared history. And unlike these conservation refugees, the gorilla population actually is growing, from 400 to about 460. But the Batwa see very little of tens of millions of dollars Uganda earns from tourism revenue. Upon returning to the community, we were guided to observe children engaging in their educational activities. And we were treated to a traditional dance performed by the tribe. Once again, it was the children's smiles and carefree spirit that truly brightened our day. Embracing the resilience of these remarkable individuals facing hardships unimaginable to most Westerners, I gained a fresh perspective on life. Despite overwhelming challenges, these people, deeply connected to their land, community, and heritage, maintain a sense of hope, cheerfulness, and dedication to overcoming the adversities imposed upon them by circumstance. That evening, back at the lodge, we were enchanted by the tunes of an Ugandan villager playing an Enanga Nanga, a handcrafted wooden instrument that enhances the storytelling heritage of the local community. The ambience of the crackling fire, melodious music, heartfelt storytelling, and the jungle symphony created pure magic. The influence of the banana gin might have had something to do with it as well. On our final day in Africa, we embarked on our last gorilla trek, starting at the park's entrance and forming an 8-person group to journey up the mountain through a different section of the forest. This part of the forest featured older trees with a vast canopy, creating a majestic atmosphere, more akin to what might envision a rainforest to really be like. The sunlight filtering through the canopy illuminated our path, which, though challenging, was adorned with diverse plant life and filled with the echoes of countless bird species. After trekking for about 2 hours, our guides directed us as before, and this time they pointed upward. As I gazed up into the canopy, I was greeted with a breathtaking sight. Several gorillas were perched high in the branches of the towering trees. Among them, a 300-pound silverback descended gracefully, gripping onto thick vines, making his way down towards us. It was a surreal moment, almost cinematic, just like right out of a Tarzan movie. And I quickly captured it on video, knowing that the reality of what we were witnessing might be hard to believe without evidence. The silverback was unmistakably the leader of the family, and as he descended, the rest of the clan soon followed suit, all descending from their lofty treetop perches. Following our was truly awe-inspiring. The dominant male silverback positioned himself as a protective barrier between us and his family, yet his demeanor was far from menacing. Instead, it exuded a welcoming aura, almost as if he was conveying, "I understand your presence here, feel free to observe, but please maintain a respectful distance." Occasionally, a male gorilla would approach us closely and gently brushing past, a moment that evoked a mix of fear and excitement within us as we followed the guide's instruction to remain as still as possible and allow them to move past us. The lighting remained dim in the jungle, prompting me to increase my ISO to ensure a well-exposed photograph. I realized the need for a fast shutter speed to effectively capture the movement of these large animals around us, especially the young ape children and adolescents. It was fascinating to observe their behaviors and interactions, up close, highlighting the strong resemblance to humans. Spending an hour with this gorilla family truly emphasized the maternal bonds, the protective nature of the males, the playful demeanor of the young ape, and the significance of the body language and eye contact, making it feel like we were granted access to an intimate glimpse into a family's daily life. I continuously clicked my camera shutter button, needing to use the widest focal length to capture the close moments. Leaning against a sturdy tree for stability, I found myself lost in the moment. In such proximity to these untamed animals, all fear and unease disappeared completely. For some reason, I could feel from these distinctly conscious and human-like beings that we were not just accepted, but also in a place of safety. While I was captivated by the playful behavior of the young ape children, my attention was drawn to a mother breastfeeding what seemed to be a frail, ill-appearing infant in the distance. The care and affection displayed toward this baby by the mother and the male apes around her was unexpectedly touching. The guides informed me that they had been keeping a close watch on this infant's health, and there were doubts about his survival. But despite this uncertainty, the apes exhibit a remarkable level of compassion and nurturing that can only be compared to the most caring examples in the human world. After this amazing hour in the forest with this family, we packed up and headed back on a long journey back to the lodge. This wildlife encounter in Africa marked the end of our journey as we said goodbye to Bwindi and Gordon and eventually boarded our bush plane back to catch our flight home to the United States. Reflecting on the trip and impending return home, I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. This adventure had exceeded all of my expectations, truly becoming the journey of a lifetime, with moments that would stay etched in my memory forever. The peace, solace, and healing that I had been seeking through the pandemic were abundantly provided by this African experience. With my camera in hand, I had captured scenes that would remain unforgettable. From the tender gaze of a lion cub locking eyes with its mother, to the playful antics of young apes in the jungle, oblivious to the threats posed by human encroachment and climate change. The sight of the resilient children in Uganda with their infectious smiles despite facing extreme poverty. All of these offered me hope and inspiration as I moved forward from this point onward. Prior to boarding, I couldn't help but reflect back on my favorite Hemingway quote: "All I wanted to do was get back to Africa." We had not left it yet, but when I would wake in the night, I would lie, listening, homesick for it already. Now, looking out the tunnel of trees over the ravine at the sky with white clouds moving across in the wind, I love this country so that I was happy as you are after you have been with a woman that you really love. And when empty, you feel it welling up again, and there it is, and you can never have it all. And yet what there is now you can have, and you want more and more to have and be and live in, to possess now again for always. Till next time. And please, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps build this channel where our ultimate goal is to raise awareness and funding for Hope Music Fest, my wife's charity to help patients living with cancer. Thank you again, and take care now. See you next time.